This week on Our Weird World, it's my birthday. Like, literally today that this came out. Not necessarily when you're listening to this, but November 1st. It is my birthday. I am 32, and I don't know how to feel about it, you guys. Like, mentally, where I am in my life and just how I feel internally, I still feel like I'm in my early 20s. But physically, I could be going on about 84 right now. Like, in my 20s, like, people always tell me, like, oh, wait till you turn 30. Man, everything changes when you turn 30. And I did not believe them, nor did I have the heart to tell them that my body had already given up. Like, things changed in my 20s. All right, let's run down the list here. I lost my hair. All right, if you weren't aware, I am hairless, at least on my head. I've got a beard. Obviously, you've seen the icon of the show. But yeah, I started losing my hair early 20s too. Like right when I started grad school, just the hairline was going away. I didn't feel like just going to get haircuts every 2 weeks just to thin out the sides to, just make it keep up with the top of my head. So I just started shaving it, and I would imagine now that it's just not possible to grow back now. So I've lost my hair. I caught the depression real bad, because that's how it works. You just catch it. It's like, Lyme disease or something. I had kidney stones, and I developed vertigo. Vertigo, that condition that old people get? Yeah, I got that in my 20s. All of that in my 20s. And so, 2-3 years ago when I turned 30, I kind of figured the worst was, like, it couldn't get any worse, right? No, it's way worse. I don't understand how much worse it has to get before people start dying. Like, it's bad. It's real bad. And, we're going to get through it, though. I'm going to keep pumping some podcast episodes out. Going to keep writing books, because that's clearly the only thing I am capable of doing now, is just sitting and talking and writing. So there's the birthday existential crisis. It's Our Weird World.
Our Weird World.
Welcome to Our Weird World. I'm your host, John Henson, and this week, didn't even say what we were talking about this week in the first open, but we were talking about some unlucky people. We are going to look at the stories today of Roy Sullivan, Tsutomu Yamaguchi, and Jason and Jenny Cairns Lawrence. Three stories that will absolutely make you feel better about your life and, some of the times that maybe you have felt unlucky, because at least you weren't these people. All right, that's it. That's the intro. Let's jump into story time. Story time. Before we get going, like, I just have to get this off. Like, for some reason, I have Scars by Papa Roach stuck in my head. And if you don't remember that song, go take a listen to it. I'm not going to sing it, but the thing that, like, in some cases, I don't mind if a song is stuck in my head. If I like the song, I hate this song. All right. I hate every song Papa Roach has ever come out with. Partially because the band name is Papa Roach. Like, gross. But then also just, like, I hate their singer. He's kind of a chode. So that's where my life is today. So there we go. Anyway, we'll start today with the story of Roy Sullivan, who was born on February 7th, 1912 in Northern Virginia. He started working as a park ranger in the Shenandoah National Park in 1936. And 6 years later, in 1942, Roy was out seeking shelter in a fire lookout tower during a violent thunderstorm. And the tower had just been built and didn't have a lightning rod. So normally, that's fine. All right. A lightning rod would actually attract the lightning and probably absorb it a little bit. But unfortunately, this did not happen. Several bolts of lightning struck the tower, shooting fire all through and around the tower. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a lightning bolt like in slow motion, like especially when it like hits a tree or anything. It's insane and intense. All right, because it lights it up. Trees will explode. I've seen that happen. But then also like fire everywhere because it's hot. Lightning is really hot, you guys. I don't know why. I assume you wouldn't know that. But anyway, so Roy is like hunkered down in the top of this fire tower, and it just keeps getting struck by lightning. There's bolts and discharge or whatever. I don't know what the inside of a lightning bolt looks like, but it's going on. All right, it's getting crazy. At that point, he actually figured, because the tower was getting struck by lightning so many times, he figured it would be safer away from the tower, and he jumped down and made a run for it. And look, honestly, I don't blame him. I don't blame the logic on that, because clearly there's something in this fire tower that is attracting the lightning. Logic would dictate, go away from the tower and you'll stop getting struck by lightning or getting close to being struck by lightning. Unfortunately, Roy was then struck by a bolt of lightning, which burned a 1/2 inch wide strip down his right leg and also blew a hole in his shoe before exiting out where his big toe was. So didn't really work out. Now, obviously, people get struck by lightning every year. Right? It's very rare that it happens, but usually, there's always a news story. 1 or 2 people will get struck by lightning. It's really rare, like I said. But Roy's encounters with lightning, we're not done. All right. Normally, if you get struck by lightning, it's never going to happen again, but not to Roy. In 1969, Roy was driving his truck along a mountain road with his windows down, which, is fine as long as there's not a thunderstorm going on, but there was. So why was Roy riding through a thunderstorm with his windows down? We don't know. Although, typically you are still safe inside a vehicle, since the body of the vehicle acts as what's known as a Faraday cage, which is basically this enclosure designed to block electromagnetic fields. That only works when you are fully insulated inside the car. So once you have the windows down, you're not immune to lightning bolts. And especially in the same way as if you are completely inside the car. Because I had a friend one time whose car got struck by lightning while they were driving, and nothing happened. I think it blew one of the tires out, but otherwise, they were totally safe. Roy, he kept his windows down, and as lightning struck a nearby tree, the tree then deflected the bolt immediately through his open window. The shock burned off his eyebrows and set his hair on fire because, like I said, lightning is hot. And he was immediately knocked unconscious, and his truck, however, kept rolling down the road. But fortunately, it stopped just short of rolling off a cliff because, this story is about unlucky people, but silver linings, right? He was a little lucky that he didn't just roll off the cliff and die. The next year, in 1970, Sullivan was struck by lightning while he was just standing out in the front yard. All right, so we're up to 3 lightning strikes this time. This time, the lightning bolt struck a nearby transformer and then jumped down to Roy's left shoulder. So it wasn't like a direct hit, but still, that's 2 deflections at least. In 1972, Roy was working inside the ranger station in Shenandoah during a thunderstorm, probably still feeling relatively safe, considering he was way indoors. He's in the middle of the building. It's probably a thick, well-insulated ranger station. I don't know if it's a log cabin situation or maybe it's a concrete plywood situation. I don't know, but he's in the middle of the ranger station. He's inside a building. All right. There's a huge roof over his head. What could go wrong, right? Well, guess what? Lightning struck the ranger station with such force that it still found its way inside the office and set Roy's hair on fire for a second time. Oh, he tried to smother the flames with his jacket, but like he's like full on Ghost Rider at this point. Like his whole head's on fire. And so when the jacket didn't work, he ran to the bathroom, but he couldn't fit his head under the sink. So he had to grab like a bunch of paper towels, wet them, and then put the fire out that way. Crazy. At this point, after 4 lightning strikes, I think, after being struck by lightning 4 times, Roy really began to believe that someone or something was out to get him, and I don't blame him. For the next few months, anytime Roy encountered a thunderstorm out on the road, he would pull over and lie down on the front seat until the storm passed. He also started carrying a can of water with him wherever he went, which honestly, that's kind of just what you start doing if your hair is set on fire twice. I get it. Roy's safety measures lasted for a little over a year. So, he was able to avoid some more lightning strikes. But in August of 1973, Roy was out on patrol when he saw a storm cloud forming. But rather than continue on or, pull over, like continue towards the storm or pull over and do his, regular sit down thing, Roy decided to turn around and drive in the opposite direction. But after a few minutes, he felt like, he had outrun the storm, and he kind of got out of his truck to stretch his legs a little bit. And guess what, you guys? No lie, he was immediately struck by lightning. His hair caught on fire again, and the bolt shot down his left arm and his leg before blowing his entire shoe off. And as calmly as he could, he crawled back to his truck, grabbed his water can, and extinguished the flames on his head. Like it's Looney Tunes level preposterous at this point. 3 years later, Roy found himself running from yet another thunderstorm, but it just wasn't going to happen for him. He was struck again in the ankle. A year later, Roy was trout fishing in a pond when lightning struck him for the 7th time. We are up to 7 lightning strikes. Honestly, like how he even mustered the courage to go outside at this point is just remarkable. Like, I think for me, it's the fool me once, shame on you sort of thing where like once I get struck by lightning once, all right, fine. Freak accident. It's going to happen to somebody. Fate chose me. All right. I get struck by lightning again. I'm never going outside again. Never. Like you would have to dress me in like some electric repellent. I don't know, whatever. Like I'm at a point right now in my life where I hate going out during the winter just because for some reason, and I haven't figured out how to fix this yet other than use one of those little dryer sheets, but all of my clothes get super staticky. And so every time I close or open the door to my car or like any door to a building, I shock the hell out of myself and I hate it. I am on edge for like 4 months out of the year. And that's enough for me. I can't imagine going outside on a regular basis, making sure that there aren't any clouds in the sky, but then have that like ominous feeling where you see a storm cloud and then it's like, oh God, not again. I really hope this doesn't happen again. But then it does happen again. And you are like struck with like thousands of degrees of electricity. It's insane. Going back here to the trout fishing pond when he struck for the 7th time, obviously his hair caught on fire again. I'm actually impressed with his hair continuing to grow back after being caught on fire all this time. But to make things worse, he as he went to go get his water can to put his hair out again, a bear emerged from the forest and actually began trying to steal the trout that Roy had on his line. According to Roy, and this is amazing, this was the 22nd time in his life that he had to smack a bear in the face with a stick, which that alone would make for a great series of stories if he had not already survived 7 lightning strikes. How insane is your life that 22 bear encounters go wrong enough that you have to smack a bear with a stick. All right. He's probably seen bears hundreds of times in his life working in Shenandoah, but then to actually have them get close enough to you that you got to smack them with a stick. That's already enough life for one human. But for that to be overshadowed by you getting struck by lightning 7 times is insane. All right. And look, here's some perspective for you. The odds of getting struck by lightning just once in your lifetime is about 1 in 12,000. And that's on average. All right. Like if you stay inside most of the time, you're a smart person, you don't go running around in thunderstorms, those odds are a lot higher. Or I guess, I don't know. You know what I mean? So like there are people who live a little bit more dangerous, like, people who are maybe out on ships in the middle of the ocean, people like Roy who are in the woods working on fire towers or whatever. So like it averages out, but still 1 in 12,000 is super rare. All right. The odds, here you go, of getting struck by lightning 7 times in your lifetime is 1 in 120 octillion. All right. So that's million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion. That's 8 illions. All right. And then it's 120 of those more. All right. That's insane. If this were a fair world, all right, Roy's story would have ended with him dying from getting struck by lightning. And as morbid as that sounds, I really wish that was the case, but it wasn't. In fact, the story is actually a lot more sad. Instead, he shot himself in the head in 1983 because his wife, who was 30 years his younger, did not love him enough. And, look, if you've been struck by lightning 7 times, it can be pretty difficult to find someone with the courage to get anywhere near you, much less have any sort of romantic feelings towards you. So I get it. Honestly, the fact that his wife cheating on him or not loving him enough was the cause for his suicide and not the fact that he got struck by lightning 7 times is remarkable. And then just one little nugget here just to end it. He died in the town of Dooms, Virginia. So I thought that was interesting. Next story here. I don't know why I like this one so much. It amuses me. But Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a Japanese draftsman who designed oil tankers for the Mitsubishi company in Nagasaki. And I do not want you to jump ahead of me here. All right. I think we all know where this is headed now. All right. I said Nagasaki. If you know anything about World War II, you know where this is headed. All right. When Japan began their involvement in World War II, Yamaguchi made plans to kill himself and his entire family with sleeping pills if Japan lost the war, because even though he wasn't enlisted in the military, like that is a huge cultural thing. Like shame, there's no such thing as like owning up to your shame. It's like, oh, you messed up. Well, you got to kill yourself now. That's like, cultures, man. So on August 6th, 1945, Yamaguchi was preparing to leave the city of Hiroshima after spending the previous 3 months there on a business trip. And I seriously, I know what you're thinking. Do not jump ahead of me here. All right. He lives in Nagasaki. He was working in Hiroshima during World War II. There's no way I can't bury the lead on this. On the way to the train station to go back home, Yamaguchi realized he had forgotten his Hanko, which basically was like a passport that allowed him to travel inside Japan. So he ran back over to the work site to retrieve it. And at 8:15 that morning, as Yamaguchi walked along the docks of the work site there at Nagasaki, he looked up and noticed a bomber in the sky. And look, you know what, guys? It was wartime, and this sort of thing was totally normal in the Japanese skies around this time. You just see a bunch of bombers flying around, totally normal. Didn't think anything of it. He then noticed 2 small parachutes holding a small object descending from the sky, behind the bomber. And again, guys, look, he didn't think anything of it. All right. It was, it could have been a round of American propaganda or a supply crate. Like none of that was completely out of the ordinary. But a short time later, And I mean, you guys knew what was about to happen. The sky lit up in a bright flash, and Yamaguchi was blown to the ground by an immense, just blisteringly hot force. His eardrums ruptured, he lost his vision, and he was burned all over the top and left side of his body. When his sight returned several minutes later, Yamaguchi crawled to a shelter to try to figure out what on earth had just happened. He then set out to find his colleagues so that they could all just go back to work. Because, I mean, look, man, the Japanese, they are super committed to getting stuff done. All right. This insane atomic bomb had just ripped through the city. And like 10 minutes later, he's like, okay, we got to go back to work. I love my bad Japanese accent. I don't care. So yeah, Yamaguchi and his two colleagues had survived the atomic bomb. They spent the night in an air raid shelter, mainly because most everything else around Nagasaki was destroyed. And the next day, this was in Hiroshima. I'm sorry. But the next day they returned to Nagasaki to receive medical treatment. Because the first bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, the second one was dropped on Nagasaki. That's what happens. He returned. This is what's crazy. He had just gotten burned like pretty bad by the atomic bomb, but he went back to work 3 days later on August 9th. And this is what's funny to me. As he was describing the entire ordeal to his supervisor, like some crazy, weird deja vu that it was like he was speaking it into existence as he talked. The sky lit up in another bright flash, and within minutes, everything around him was destroyed again. Crazy though, like Yamaguchi survived again, and he is the only person to actually be officially recognized by the Japanese government as having survived both atomic bombs. And look, as you might expect, Yamaguchi finally succumbed to the effects of severe radiation, and he died of stomach cancer. It was actually 65 years later. Dude had he was immune to being blown up by 2 atomic bombs. And he lived another 65 years after that. So, probably nothing even remotely close to that bad ever happened to him again, but who knows? Last story here. It's a pretty short one. The story of the British couple, Jason and Jenny Cairns Lawrence, who were on vacation to New York City on September 11th, 2001. And they had a front row seat to watch the World Trade Centers get destroyed by terrorists. The worst attack in American history and probably the worst vacation ever. Well, 4 years later, the couple decided to take a sort of staycation and visit their country's capital of London because, look, the odds of London ever getting attacked by terrorists was pretty much non-existent because it just really had never happened before. Well, guess what, guys? On July 7th, 2005, while Jason and Jenny were vacationing in London, terrorists launched a series of attacks on the London Underground, killing 52 people and injuring over 700 more. It was the first terrorist attack in the country's history, and obviously at that time, the worst. Well, guess what happened? 3 years later, the couple decided to take another vacation. This time they chose Mumbai, which is a city in India full of peaceful Hindus. Like, what could go wrong, right? Well, guess what? On November 26th, 2008, a group of Pakistani terrorists attacked several landmarks throughout the city, killing 164 people, marking India's worst terrorist attack in their country's history. Now, look, I don't know if Jason and Jenny have gone on another vacation since. I don't know where they were when the Fukushima reactor melted down and all of those people got super sick. I don't know where they were for that giant tsunami that happened in Japan. All right. I don't know if they were in New Orleans on when Hurricane Katrina came through. I'm just trying to think of other terrible disasters. I don't know if they were in France a couple of years ago or Belgium when those terrorist attacks happened. Who knows? We don't know. Where were Jason and Jenny when all of this was happening? All right. Are they the reason all of these? Where were they in 2020 when COVID-19 started? Or I guess 2019. Huh? Were they vacationing in China when the COVID outbreak happened? Who knows? All right. Were they in Australia in early 2020 when the entire place was on fire? We don't know. All right. Somebody should check in on them and figure out what they're up to. All right. Because there's a decent chance when Jason and Jenny Cairns Lawrence are around, something really bad is going to happen. There we go. Fun little episode. Just enjoying other people's misfortune. That's kind of mean sounding when you put it that way. But yeah, it's just, look, if you're feeling down about yourself, just remember, you've probably never been struck by lightning. And you've definitely never been struck by lightning 7 times. So things could definitely be worse. All right. Let's wrap it up here and see what we learned today.
What did we learn?
Number 1, Roy Sullivan was struck by lightning 7 times, which is a 1 in 120 octillion chance of happening. So most likely, at least for a long time, I don't even think 120 octillion people have ever existed on this planet. Like, it's literally a once in eternity type thing going on here. Number 2, Tsutomu Yamaguchi is the only person to survive both atomic bombs. He was in Hiroshima when the first one hit, and then 3 days later, he was in Nagasaki when the other one hit. And everyone around him died. I don't know. I can't verify those claims. But a lot of people around him did die. We do know that. But not him. He went another 65 years. And number 3, Jason and Jenny Cairns Lawrence were on vacation in 3 different countries and were there at the time of each of those countries' worst terrorist attacks in history. What are they doing? Next week on Our Weird World, it's Veterans Day week, and we are going to have a big episode looking at some heroes from World War II. We're going to look at the stories of Jack Churchill, Simo Häyhä, that's probably not how you say it, but whatever, Etta Roble, David Salito, Digby Tatumworter, and Maria Oktyabrskaya. So lots of fun stories from World War II that you've likely never heard. So get ready for those. Everybody likes a good war story, especially like people my age. Like, people my age are super into World War II now. Like, that's one of those signs that you're getting older, is you get like super into either like World War II or the Civil War. And, that's just what we're going to be for next week. So thank you all for listening. Don't send me any birthday wishes because, I don't know. It's weird, I guess. But, tell all your friends though. That's what you can give me for my birthday. All right. Look, here we go. All right. You really want to give me something for my birthday? Maybe you don't, but maybe you should do this anyway. Here's what you can do. You can either go tell your friends to listen to the show, or you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts and be like, oh my God, their show is really cool. This guy's really entertaining. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I am or not. But do one of those 2 things, and I will be forever grateful for you and your listenership. So thank you again. And remember, keep it weird.